Me'lani Labat Joseph is an MIT-educated engineer, but her passion lies in helping her community. Drawing from a wide array of life experiences, Me'lani works to bring meaningful, lasting education experiences to Black and Brown communities through her company, Transformative Innovations.
My name is Me'lani Labat Joseph, and I currently am principal of Transformative Innovations, LLC, my own consulting company, but I've spent all of my career, so the past 30 years, doing community development and youth development, specifically STEM outreach for young people, so pre-college youth.
Okay, so can you give me a snapshot of the journey over the past 30 years? What was your educational background? Give me the progression of things.
Yeah, so I'll actually start when I was little. So I was born and raised in California in the Bay Area, so in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a California girl, and all my family and childhood friends are still there. And so I grew up in a really dynamic and culturally diverse community as a young person. And my mom was a very politically active person. And so I remember she would belong to various groups. That it was a U.S. Grenada Friendship Society. She worked on Ronald Dellum's campaign. I remember stuffing envelopes and aspiring congresswomen in people's homes. And so my orientation is being a change agent at a very early age, and just knowing that through my actions that I could produce some change. And so that's my orientation, and that's been my foundation for me in my life. My mom was also a world traveler, and so she exposed me pretty early to the world. And so I went to Cuba when I was 7, 8 years old, and still remember really vividly what that experience was like. We moved to Tanzania, East Africa when I was 11, 12, me and my mom, and she, so I'll just back up a little bit more. So my parents divorced when I was 3. My dad's always been in my life. And at 5, my dad bought me a train set. And so I still remember he put the tracks on a big wood board, and I was so excited to buy like my different trains to go on my train set. So, and my mom was a very deep thinker. And so she spent a career being a public health nurse, but really would have been an astrophysicist if she had been encouraged, because she was always thinking about just beyond the Earth, and was really into Star Trek and Star Wars, and just a really deep thinker. And so really early on, I just got exposed to science and math really early, and it just was natural. It wasn't a thing that was to be feared or something that I was, said I wasn't good at. I always just was very comfortable with STEM. I like to tell the story of when I was in preschool. We lived in Las Vegas for a time, and I would, my mom tells a story. I actually still remember kind of this preschool. I remember kind of the playground area, but apparently a lot of car dealers' kids went to this preschool. And so my mom would tell me that I would spend much of my day playing card games with these car dealers' kids in preschool. So I'm assuming that, I got comfortable with numbers very early on. And so I like to just tell that story that, I do believe one of my mantras is early and often. And so I think I'm a product of having been exposed to, encouraged by numbers and math and science and curiosity, and just kind of thinking beyond really early. And so coupled with, parents who encouraged me to do hands-on things around STEM. My dad got me interested in model cars. And so that was a hobby of mine when I was younger. I used to love to do model cars. I'm an only child. And so, I had to have activities that I could do by myself. And so I just remember spending hours and hours, picking out car models to make and spending time gluing the pieces together. And so, and that was like elementary school age that I was doing that. And so I just remember just really early, just feeling empowered that I could make a change and a difference. And then also having this really rooted sense of, I belong in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics really early. So that just helped in my progression of classes. So I was always very strong in particularly math. I mean, science, because it's a direct correlation of math and science, but I've been, strong in the math and sciences for pretty much my entire life. So that just helped in my academic journey of just doing really well in those classes. So I'll just go back a little bit to when we moved to Tanzania, East Africa. So that was, like I said, was in 11th, 12th grade. So that was, not 11, 12 years old. And so I was 5th, 6th grade. And so it was that experience living in a rural community. We were 60 kilometers north of Dar es Salaam, which is the capital of Tanzania. And even though we lived in a cement house, there was our community outside of our little complex of 4 houses. So my mom worked at the medical center there as a public health nurse. And so folks lived in, huts, straw huts made of mud, and there were no running water and no irrigation systems, and there weren't these paved roads. And so I saw all of this as a young person, and that really left a huge mark on me. And that's actually why I decided to go into engineering into college. And so for me, I thought I wanted to be an international developer and go around the world and design transportation systems and irrigation systems and just really develop the developing world. But so that led me to go to MIT. So I went to Berkeley High School. And so my choices were going to University of California, Berkeley, which was my hometown school, right up the street from my high school, or going to other places. And I applied to MIT. One of the props I wanted to use, because it's just really cool that I would even have this still, but in high school, I belonged to a program called the Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Program, MESA. And it was a program that I believe was originated in California and is still in existence today. And it encourages and provides support for students of color, probably mainly Black and brown students, to get exposed to engineering, the sciences, and it's affiliated with the University of California, Berkeley. And if you know anything about that school, it's the number 3 engineering school. It's MIT, Stanford, and University of California, Berkeley. Right now, if you look it up, as the top schools in America for engineering. And so, so this MESA program was a program that was designed to support, provide tutoring for, and get young people on the campus of college campuses. And in my case, it was Cal Berkeley. And so I found this medallion that they gave us.
Hold it closer.
Okay, I can see it.
Oh, I got it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it's a really heavy, you can put it around your neck. And I guess they must have given it to me when I graduated from high school, but it's a pretty, I kept it. And that was about 40 years ago, not 40 years ago, maybe 30 some years ago. And that just, I don't know, that's just, it was very important, I think, in my trajectory into college. So I was in this MESA program, and we would have this tutoring, and there was this director of the program at my campus at Berkeley High School, Rich Hemphill, And I'll never forget, I was doing, working on a math problem, and he just tapped me on the shoulder and said, Me'lani, you should apply to MIT. So he had gotten a PhD from MIT. Mm-hmm. And so I just will never forget, him tapping me and, him thinking that I could be successful at a place like that. That's what it really boiled down to. And so I applied and I got in and I went there and I graduated in 4 years with a mechanical engineering degree from MIT. And and that just set me on my path to what I'm doing now. So another part of the story is I had this experience at MIT, and actually I realized decades later that my class was actually one of the highest African American admitted students class, and so we actually had there were quite a few of us, and so it wasn't a place where I felt like I didn't belong. We had quite a community. NSBE was huge in my world, so I was a part of the National Society of Black Engineers. Went to all their national conferences. We had great career exposure opportunities, great career fairs. And so, being a place like MIT as well, you get some really great internship opportunities. And so I was able to work at Hewlett-Packard for one of my summers in Palo Alto, California, early on. I think it was after my freshman year. And then I worked at Honeywell Commercial Flight Systems Group in Phoenix, Arizona for 2 summers. And it was just awesome to get an exposure to what it would be like to be an engineer. And so for me personally, I decided that I did not want to be a professional engineer after having these experiences, but I still kept on with my studies at MIT because I just knew the foundation was going to be incredible for me. So by my senior year, probably I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next? And so I'd always been interested in community, and so decided that I was going to look at public policy and public administration graduate programs after MIT. And so I had been to Chicago, the city, really loved the city, and so applied to the University of Chicago, Harris School of Public Policy Studies, and got in and went there. And I don't think I really understood. Well, I probably did because I applied there, but I don't think in retrospect, I understand now just how prestigious University of Chicago is. And so I went there. It was a 2-year program, graduate program. And that really set me on the path of my current, like what I've done for pretty much my full career. So I'll just stop there if you want to ask me any other questions.
You've touched on it a lot already. We've talked about it a lot already, but so having heard all of that about your career path, looking back on it now, how important was that encouragement from your family early on, those card games that you played as a preschooler? Are you able to sort of gauge the impact of all of that as you look back retrospectively?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, and so I'll just say, and so my current work, or my work that I've done for most of my career, is in a space where I've been fortunate enough to try and expose young people, because my interest was really being out in the community. And so after I realized I did not want to be a professional engineer, and I wanted to be out in the community, is that I dedicated my life really to exposing young people in particular, and particularly kids of color. So that's Black and brown, mainly African American, but Latino kids are in there as well. So communities of color, to the wonders of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so all of my jobs have been all about how do we get young people exposed to these careers, opportunities, and I'm even doing that in my current space now in my consulting firm. And so my belief is that it all begins with exposure. and exposure early and a sense of confidence in the space of science, technology, engineering, and math early. And so everything a part of my life journey has led me to be confident and just a knowledge that I belong in that space if I wanted to operate in that space as a professional, and the ability to operate in that space, having gone to the top engineering school in the world, quite honestly, it just gives me a level of confidence and sense that, yeah, I could do that if I really wanted to. So, so I think it's all about just having early experiences, having people in your lives that at least one person who can, just reinforce that, yes, you should try this. You can be good at this. I think is critical.
And you touched on this as well. So I'm wondering, so we know, obviously we know that people of color are underrepresented in STEM professions. Mm-hmm. Did you have that knowledge then growing up? And how has that knowledge impacted what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did not know that growing up. I think I realized that once I was in industry. So in my internships, I could see it, right? And so I think for me, actually, the reason why I decided not to be a professional engineer was because not necessarily because I didn't see it. Well, part of it was because I didn't see a lot of brown people like myself in those corporate spaces, absolutely. But for me, I didn't want to be working on a small piece of a much larger project and have like a cubicle style life. I wanted to be outside and have relationships and make connections with people on the outside. And so that's the largest piece of why I personally did not. And just the corporate structure for me just wasn't appealing enough for me to dedicate my life to it. But, there are so many benefits to it. And that's why I've dedicated my career to give young people an opportunity, if they so desire, to be in a space where they could, be an engineer or be a scientist. And because it's really fulfilling, it's just a matter of personal preference and personal interest of, how you want to spend your professional time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what can you tell me about obstacles? Do any obstacles stick out over the years that you've had to overcome?
So, in as far as dedicating my life to my professional life to getting more young people interested in, particularly communities of color, interested in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's no secret that, and this also played into why I didn't necessarily want to be an engineer as well, is that it's because there are not very many people that are Black and brown in those spaces. It's not the most welcoming space. And so, and quite honestly, it could be hostile. And so, excuse me. And so when I talk to young people about working in a STEM space, I talk real talk, and I tell them that you have to have really high self-confidence because people are going to be doubting you just because of the color of your skin. And I've experienced that in my own, life, professional journey, that, the fact that I'm a female also plays into things. And so I've, on many occasions, have been in a meeting and people may not, look at you eye to eye, or may, use the comments that you've made and take them as their own. So, that's real. And so there's gender issues. There are, just historical issues of being underrepresented in most situations in America. And so dealing with that, so people not being used to interacting with Black and brown people, intelligent Black and brown people that can string 3 words together, 3 sentences together, and that make sense, and be really provide value to the conversation. And so there's that challenge of just folks not being used to being in spaces with intelligent Black and brown people. Familiarity, with the other is also very real. So there's a lot of barriers facing people of color in the spaces of STEM. So I believe that you have to have really strong self-confidence. You have to be superior in the knowledge of whatever you're going to be working in. So that has to be a given. You have to literally be superhuman, quite honestly. I mean, you have to be so far above and beyond everyone else that you're just judged at a much higher level than white people, quite honestly. And so you just have to be really, you have to have really strong resiliency, because there's going to be obstacles just placed, and you're going to see people getting ahead of you, getting opportunities before you. And I've seen that in my career. So I worked at Case Western Reserve University, and I saw many people getting promotions, and I wasn't getting those promotions. And so that's a real thing that happens throughout. It could be nonprofit, higher education, corporate, it happens. And so that's a barrier as well, because you know that you deserve opportunities to advance. And so, you just have to really love what you're doing. You have to be really resilient. And honestly, it's pretty draining. And that's one of the reasons why I work for myself now, because I can, do the things I really feel passionate about. And I didn't really talk about, so I was just talking about Transformative Innovations, LLC. And so what I really wanted to do was have a larger impact on young people. And so instead of just working on, discrete projects and programs and initiatives, I really want to see how I could impact more Black and brown young people. And so my interests are expansive. And so I have, like I mentioned before, I was able to travel to Cuba and when I was younger, but that really set me on a path to travel the world. And so I lived in Tanzania, East Africa. I've been to 5 of the 6 continents. I've been to over 21 countries at this point. In Asia, I went to Japan when I was in college, went to Australia, New Zealand, European countries, France, Spain, Norway, the Netherlands, been to Ghana, lived in Ghana for 6 months. In 2014, took my family there, my husband as a professor, so he did a sabbatical there. Been to Mexico and Jamaica, and just been to a lot of different places. And so my worldview is very, very expansive. And so that, and I have an interest to promote that among young people as well. And so while I have the STEM interest, I also have an interest to expose young people and people in general to the world outside of their house, their porch, their street, their neighborhood, their block, their city. And so my company now is, my kind of tagline is helping organizations and institutions to maximize outcomes for youth in their communities. And for me, that's pretty broad. The project I'm working on now is dealing with equity in STEM and STEAM. And so that is working with the Cleveland Foundation, the Nordstrom Corporation Foundation, helping them as institutions figure out how they can support kids of color to be exposed to be interested in, to be ultimately successful in a STEM and STEAM career if they so desire. And so, as you can imagine, that's a pretty big project. And so, looking forward to working on that for many years. And so it really is just putting all of my knowledge and experience, my expertise and training to use now, but really on a much broader scale, and possibly even on a national scale and even international scale. Because I do have some contacts outside the US who are interested in me helping them think about how to expand STEM in particular to young people in their countries as well. And so, so it's really exciting work, and it's working for yourself it's definitely tough, but it's also extremely rewarding. And just been really happy with my projects and just the future of what can be, because I really do have high aspirations, and it really involves thinking creatively. I was actually just talking to my son yesterday about my company and how I came up with the name. And actually, it wasn't my first choice of the name, but I actually really, really like it now because, so for me, Transformative Innovations means I am, through my work, through my company, I am innovating that's going to be transformative. And it's a way to make me accountable to the work that I do. That I want all of my work to be transformative and to be innovative and cutting edge. So I really feel like it was the right company name for me. Just hold me accountable to the work that I really aspire to do.
It speaks to what you do, right? It's a descriptive name.
Yeah.
And aspirational too, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thinking about that work, and I've only got, I think, 2 more questions for you, but thinking about that work and about the kids that you're trying to reach now, what advice would you have for a kid that's maybe 9 or 10 years old and is kind of doing that exploring in life? And the thing that I'm curious about on this question, though, is what would you tell that kid that maybe didn't have the opportunities that you had, that didn't have the support structure with parents? And it struck me a minute ago, you were talking about how you kind of have to be superhuman if you're a woman, if you're a person of color and going into these fields. That's just to get over the institutional barriers. Like, we're not even talking about like the individual life barriers that people have with family and upbringing and situational barriers. So like, what do you tell a kid that looks at you and says, that sounds great, there's no way I can get there? Like, what kind of advice do you have? It's a really minor question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, and I think about that. I think about that a lot, and I've been tasked to come up with ideas about Me'lani, if people don't have, say, your upbringing or the upbringing you provided for your 3 kids, how do you make that difference in that young person's life? And I would say be curious about the world, things around you, ask questions, and surround yourself around people who also share that curiosity and interest in learning. Learning never stops. The brain is a muscle. And so there's this thing called the growth mindset. And so Carol Dweck, that's her big, research, is basically that we can learn anything at any time in our lives, mostly. And so I think it's important for young people to realize that, even though they may have gotten messages of them not belonging in a certain space or would never be successful in math and science, that's just simply not true. And so knowing that, being curious, keep doing that, seek out people, adults and young people, peers, that will provide some kind of encouragement for you to do something bigger and better, to dream. I know it sounds a little bit ridiculous because everyone says, dream, but it really does.
It's important.
If you have something in yourself that allows you to think beyond your current state, that I think that also is. I have dreams. I have lots of dreams and aspirations, even now in my career. I think that's important. I think that taking advantage of opportunities. So in my career, I create a lot of opportunities, thousands of kids to do really cool STEM program. And so when you have those opportunities, I would say take them, and I would say travel if you can, go to places outside of your city, outside of your state, outside of your country. If you have those opportunities, I would say take those opportunities. Um, it's tough though. It's really tough if you don't have people and supports in your life to help you be exposed. One of the big things I learned about my most recent work in this equity and STEM and STEAM work is that the biggest barrier to people accessing these incredible opportunities that exist out there is that people don't know about them. And so it really takes effort on the adults part and the young person's part is to find those opportunities. They are out there, but my current work in Transformative Innovations is helping to make those opportunities more known and more accessible to young people. So, but I would say to young people now is just continue being curious, and that will go a long way. And to develop that resiliency and a belief in yourself that you can do anything you want to do. I will say, because I haven't mentioned, I have 3 kids. My daughter, Layla, who's also interviewed for this I Am STEM initiative project, she is graduated from Stanford University in a human biology major, minor in Spanish, and is applying to MD, PhD programs and really interested as aspiring research physician. And so she's going to be in STEM and wants to dedicate her life to, be in the health disparity space of the world, and hopefully that'll take her, places beyond the United States. I have a 21-year-old son, Malik, who's a senior at DePaul University. All of my kids have been really strong in math. He's the one person who is not going to pursue a STEM career, but he's majoring in public relations and advertising communications. But I think we'll do something ultimately in community relations, community outreach type work, supporting probably communities of color, hopefully in the sports kind of world, because he's a sports guy. And then my youngest son, Ayade, is a senior in high school, and he likely will study engineering and school somewhere. Probably will be an entrepreneur ultimately, but probably will get some foundational work in science, but in math and science. But I've always told my kids that, they were destined to do great things in this world. And my husband and I have tried to model that is totally possible for them, that there's nothing that they cannot do and there's no limits put on them. And so I think that they believe that. So proof will be in the pudding, but from what I've seen now, I think they really have developed just this internal belief that they are capable and expected to do great things in this world, however that may take shape or form, and that the world is such a big place. So my husband and I both lived in Africa as young people. My husband actually was born in England, lived in Africa for a good part of his young life, adolescent life, lived in Nigeria and Sudan. And so we had that common in our childhood, which is very unusual. And we wanted that experience for our own children. So that's why we took our kids to Ghana and lived there for 6 months when my daughter was a sophomore in high school and my son Malik was 8th grade and Yande was 4th grade. And so those are transformative years in any person's life. And it has, we're still waiting to see how that materializes in their own lives, but just knowing that we had the real deal African experience. And so it was not like we weren't living the lap of luxury. We were washing our own clothes, and electricity would go out literally every day. And so it was not a vacation, but we did get a very expansive and immersive life lesson in a developing country. And life was hard. Life was hard. And so, I mean, relatively hard, for us coming from America. It was just an experience. It was an experience that we will take forever and they will take forever. But I just feel like those types of experiences, like if everyone could have those experiences, it would change your life thinking about yourself and the world. And so I wanted to bring that back to, it was really important for us to show our kids that, life in America is a very privileged life. It's a very privileged life. And there's so many things you take for granted. The one thing I really missed living in Ghana was my washing machine. And so when I came back to America, I kissed my washing machine because I spent hours weekly washing my towels and sheets and clothes, and hanging them to dry on the line. Yeah. And so I just really feel like it's really important for us to know our space on the planet, and that, we really are a small, tiny piece of the larger planet. Is so big, but I also believe that every single person, and I know this, has the ability to make a difference. I know this. I've seen it in other people and in my own life. And so that's my thing that I like to tell young people, is that you have a place in this world and you can do incredible things in this world to make a difference. And we're counting on that. We're counting on young people to make a difference in this world, because it's going to be your world and your planet. Yeah. And so, so I just really would love for all young people to know, especially Black and brown young people, to know that you can make a difference in this world. One person can make a difference in this world through your actions and dedication. I'll also say that in addition to my robust family life and professional life, I've also had a really robust civic life. And so I've been so I've lived in Cleveland for about 15 years now. And for 14 of those years, I've been on some kind of board, some kind of nonprofit board, and all of them have dealt with young people. Mm-hmm. And so I was on a charter school board for 8 years, transitioned from that into another nonprofit for Advantage Cleveland Tennis Education right now. And so all of that work has been spent on trying to increase opportunities for young people to fulfill their personal promise in whatever that might be, but really just expand the horizons and helping them to realize that through incredible opportunities, you can see a vision for yourself to do wonderful things in this world. And so, I really feel like that's also been a really big piece of my life is giving back. And it's a core in me to, because I have so much to give, that I feel like it's really critical for me to do that. And not just for my own 3 kids, because they're incredible young people in their own individual rights, but I feel like, I have the ability to have an impact on other young people as well. And so I just want young people and families of the young people to know that, STEM is something for you if you so desire it. It gives you incredible life skills and experience, exposure. It's economically, fulfilling. It can give you a really great life, as far as money. And so, setting you on a path of just economic stability. And it's just a wonderful opportunity. And so I would just encourage any young person to consider it. And it's not without hard work. So I will say that, it does come with a lot of hard work, but it's totally doable and possible to do that hard work and to aspire to just really great things. So I believe in young people, and I have 3 young people as my tests. And so, so far, it's proving good and great, I would say. And I just have that belief in all young people that all young people are capable of doing great, great things. So,
Me'lani, thank you so much for your time.
thank you.